All right. So hopefully you caught my live stream yesterday because I explained a little bit about what I wanted to do today on this video with this wee lass right here. I'll give our mentor. That's but anyway, I wanted Leigh to come on here because you're going to see why in a second. I had to hold back yesterday in my live stream explaining her journey because I wanted her to say, explain it to you because it's truly amazing. And also on the video yesterday or the live stream, I wanted to, and we're going to get into this. This is going to be very free flowing between Leigh and I. I want her to do most of the talking because you're going to hear her story and what she's gone through and what she's done to reverse that and think, oh my God, you might even say, you can identify with that or you relate to that or you're like, also, sometimes what happens, we compare in the opposite to, well, I'm not that bad. Or we compare levels of severity, right, Leigh? Where we're like, this can happen. And I do this too, where I can understand where a lot of people are coming from just because I've been around it for 20 some years with patients on medications and drugs and their doctors are saying do this and kids get it from their, like just even over the counter stuff. And I get this pit in my stomach when I hear it from people that I know and people I've been working with, and it's just taken as common knowledge of, well, this is just what you have to do as you get older or whatever these limiting thoughts and beliefs are. And just to give you a little backstory on me, if this is the first time you're hearing me, is like I had migraine headaches when I was in the 8th grade, 13 years old, and I never was on medications for them. Like and then even before that, I was sick with colds and flus like all the time and sinus problems, but I was never really, I took the Benadryl, took the like histamine stuff and this and that, but I was never on prescription medications. So in this group, in the BYOG group, you might look at that or even as I'm working with people outside of the group, you might say, well, how do you know what I'm going through? Right. And sometimes that's even in my mind, like, I don't know what you're going through. I can't necessarily relate to it. I can understand it because that's what I'm going to do my best to avoid myself, but then also learning how to help you do that. But that's why I want Leigh to come on. And I already said she's going to do most of the talking. I already started off, but Leigh, I want you to just say hi and you're going to hear her. Like she can get talking real fast. And I love her accent, so that's another reason why it's so cool to have her on here. So Leigh, take it away.
I will speak slowly. Okay.
Oh, no. Give them the full experience.
Hi. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yes. Yeah. And like I said, Leigh, I don't want to say too much leading into this. I just want you to share your history a little bit, like going back 4 or 5 years ago, because it's amazing. And we'll get into like how we like interacted and started talking to each other and how we got familiar with each other. All right. As we go on.
Yeah.
But I just want you to just give a little background about who you are, where you are, and where you came from.
Oh, okay, doke. Well, that doesn't give me a lot to work with, does it? Right. Well, basically, I'm 45 years old now, right? For the first 40 years of life, it was not the best hand I was dealt. There was childhood traumas, going through adulthood as well, severe traumas coming through. And it got to the point, I'm a single mum with 2 boys. My eldest is 23, my youngest is 12. And I was working full time, doing everything that you're expected to do, right? Just getting on with it. And I was 40 years old and it got to the point I had completely burned myself out. I'd lived most of my life with depression. From about 17 years old, I was first diagnosed with depression and put onto Prozac. I don't ever remember life without medication. It was the quick fix. It was the thing you did, you went to the doctor and this is how I'm feeling. And they would just dish it out, get on with it, So it was never anything not normal to have meds or, So that continued throughout life. Dealing with depression, got to like 2016 and I was just completely exhausted, burning out, walked out my job, and basically debilitated with chronic pain from head to toe, could not move. I was bedridden for a year through 2016, most of 2016. And it got to the point that I was actually planning my own suicide. I was done. I was completely done. And as a mother, you know, with 2 kids, that's got to be, and I've been through some amount of shit in my life, but that has got to have been the worst place to have ever been. You know, just being done and thinking your babies are better off, you know, without you. I just couldn't think rationally. It was, you know, it was horrible. It was dark. And then that's when I'd found mindset work. I'd read Brian Grasso's book. Because I remember, like, in the run up to this, you know, I'm completely done, you know, and I've got my hands in the air. I'm like on the floor and I'm like, please, God, whatever is up there, you know, you need to do something here. I am completely done. I am out of here, you know. And it was like a few days later, Brian's book had popped up on the Kindle in the recommended list. And I was like, gave it a quick, you know, a scan. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. And as you know, Brian's book, he's dealt with depression and, you know, suicidal thoughts and that as well. So it related to what I was going through at the time. So I researched him, and basically him and his wife, Carrie Campbell, I just started following them onto Facebook, and started doing the mindset work they were teaching. I'd never, ever heard of mindset. Never heard of mindset. It was a whole new world that they'd opened up in there. I'm like, self-care? Is that not just going for a bath? You know, taking care of yourself. So I started following them, doing the work that they were teaching. And it was a case of showing up every day. I started doing my journaling and counting my wins. And that's where those 2 pillars changed my life. It gave me hope. And I started, you know, wins for me back then, you've got to remember, clinically depressed, in so much pain, chronic pain. I was on 32 meds a day, 8 different prescription pills. Half of them were opiates. That was tramadol. I just didn't know what was working what anymore. I don't know what was working what. So I started doing the mindset work and journaling, count my wins. So wins for me back then in 2017 were like, got out of bed for an hour today, brushed my teeth today, managed to comb my hair today, got outside for half an hour, you know. So it was like small, gradual wins, you know, every day I was showing up. And I don't know how it works, you know, that's doing something to the brain or something. I mean, it's like, wow, because I remember questioning it, you know, I'm like, how on earth is this going to pull me out of depression? Wins, you know, I'm like, how, seriously? And then, you know, they learn your language with the journaling. I'm like, how do you get that noise onto paper? How do you get all of that that's spinning in there onto paper? And Brian just said, just start, you know, and every day just writing down what was spinning in my mind. Unbeknown to me, I'm healing the traumas for the past and just putting everything into its place in my head. And I started to get stronger, mentally getting stronger. It took me a year, but I managed to pull myself out of clinical depression. And then in 2018, my next goal was to get off all the meds. And I did that. I had a year to do that, and I did it in 10 months. So that was 32 meds a day. I think I counted it up at the time. It was like tens of thousands of pills I'd actually, you know, managed to stop taking. So I got off all the meds. That was my 2018 goal. And then I started to set goals. I became a life coach. I just became a mindset coach. I'm now a certified mindset specialist. I have my own business, and getting my own clients out of depression, off the meds, and helping them sort their mindset.
And there's so much to dig into there. Just so everybody understands, like, where we're coming from is, you know, we are both certified in the same through Brian Grasso and Carrie Campbell. It's their Eliminate Your Limit system. And both, I mean, you and I have done a lot of different mindset work even before that. Like whether it's, again, saying affirmations or just positive thinking. And like, again, Leigh and I talk every week just because she's my mindset coach, where we just run stuff by each other too. because we all need these coaches. And when a lot of times people hear mindset, like, well, it's got to be something physical. It can't be that for me. That's why I wanted to bring you on, because you've been there physically and chemically with these, you know, with the medications and stuff. And just so people understand, we can't just throw that away. It's the foundation of what we need to do. And that's why the BYOG group, it's on the announcement, like, what is this? The description? It's a health and mindset driven community. All right. To help you break free from chronic pain, to help you break free from any dependence and achieve high performance in life without medications, without drugs. And sometimes people get so down in that pit that they don't know what to do or think there's no way out. Right.
Yeah.
And mindset is so misunderstood. And so that's why I'm glad I'm not just the only one saying it. It's not just positive thinking. It's not just a big aha experience. Because I love how you say it's, in what I keep talking about too. It's I think both of our core values is that we've learned from Brian and Carrie is the simple and consistent effort. It doesn't have to be forceful. It's not going to be easy from the start. Just like, I mean, go into, like, you had to start with count your wins, because the whole journaling and learn your language. And a lot of people listening, they don't know how to deal with the thoughts that they have. Yeah. And they feel like there's something wrong.
And
with
the
them.
feelings and emotions that come with the language, you know, that's in the head, and having to sit down. Because that was one of the things when I went to the doctor at 17, I had already been through some serious traumas throughout, you know, from childhood, sex abuse, and I was raped at 13. My dad died suddenly when I was 9 years old, and my mum was, you know, mental health issues, and, you know, so there was a lot. So when I had went to the doctor at 17 with these feelings that I just couldn't explain, it was like I feel empty inside. I feel as if I'm on the outside looking in. So it was so hard to explain and put into words, you know, and then instantly diagnosed with depression and medicated. When, you know, and that was life for 25 years. I'm like, you know, that. And the way we're conditioned to believe that, you know, these answers are in the doctor's office, it's in the medication, that's going to fix that symptom, that's going to make me feel part of the world again. You know, 25 years I did that, and it almost killed me. And then I realised 3 months doing mindset work, I immersed myself in mindset work. And within 3 months, I could feel the void within me starting to connect again. I was connecting with myself, because learning my language was bringing the traumas up, and I was putting it on the paper, you know, and I was dealing with things in an emotionally healthy way. I was closing the loop. I was feeling the feelings. I was dealing with the emotions, because we're not taught that. Growing up, we're taught to, you know, numb it, dumb it, you know, just, you know, stop crying, don't be a baby, you know. So we're never taught. And I mean, our parents were never taught it. Their parents were never taught it. So it's a thing that's passed down through the generations, that we're not taught how to handle emotion, how to feel it, how to process it. And that's where, you know, addictions come into play, that people go and they're finding it in the bottom of the glass, the alcohol, gambling, sex addiction, shopping addiction. You know, it's all there. We've all got an addiction of some sort, but it's all an avoidance to dealing with the emotions that's actually coming up in us in that moment. We run, we numb it, we dumb it, we medicate it, you know. So, and the moment I stopped that and dealt with myself, it was all in me. It wasn't out there. It was nothing out there. It was just, I had to have the right tools to show me how to process my emotions, my thoughts, and my feelings as I moved through my healing journey. Yeah, no.
Exactly. That's the how. It's not just the how to, but yeah, you need the tools. We have these emotions that we don't know how to deal with. No. And I would love for you to explain, again, they've heard it from me more than likely in this group, but mindset, what is that? Like, I know, like, the whole unconscious, conscious drive, like, what is driving our behaviors? Explain that, and how, how you had said it just, when you started counting your wins, and all of a sudden it just became like, I start feeling a little bit better.
Absolutely, right? None of it made sense. None of it. You know, Brian, I had the best world-class mentors around me, you know, and Brian's like, don't try to understand it, just do the work. With these usual adding cuss words and stuff, you know, and because obviously I'm like, how's that working? How do I feel better within 3 months that a doctor couldn't do for me in 25 years?
Mm-hmm.
How did the doctors not know this? Because it could save so many lives to begin with, because this is where suicides come in. The amount of medicated people, the children that are getting medicated now with anxiety, mental health issues, no, it's not. It's because they don't know how to deal with their traumas. They don't feel safe, and they don't have the tools to process emotions in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
We're taught to avoid it. So mindset to me is self-mastery.
Mm-hmm.
It's knowing myself well enough and knowing how to navigate accordingly. It's just knowing the tools, when to use them. I mean, and it's not complicated. And I think that's what scares people.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
Mm-hmm.
It is so simple. And I remember going through the angry phase and the frustrated phase. I'm like, why is this not taught in schools? This could save people from so many issues. It's it's scary, it's frightening, and it's unbelievable that that mindset and isn't taught for mental health in schools to everybody, anybody, and it is so simple. It's a simple mindset program. The work is easy, and the results start showing up. I don't know. I'm like, wow.
Well, and that's, we talked about that even before I hit record, is so many people want to figure out why and how it works. And again, you can go into it like we did, where it's, okay, I definitely want to learn how the brain and the whole neurology part of the coaching and why and behavior change, but just like how you trusted Brian, right? Just like you want your clients to trust you. You've been through it. I want my clients, and it's not just about wanting, but living that life too, living what we're teaching and living what you like we're showing you to do. And and that's when I get frustrated sometimes. And that's why I wanted to have you on here, just to show people. And that's what I want you to get into also is, so you started doing the mindset work, like you were debilitating chronic pain and just depression for years. And all this, the traumas that you had. And it wasn't necessarily, again, you didn't know, okay, I got to go back into these traumas. You did in mindset isn't, okay, do this. And that's how Carrie said, how she said, it's not a blueprint, it's a roadmap.
That's it.
If you look up your destination,
and the 4 pillars are your tools to navigate you through whatever your journey's unfolding for you. The way I went through it is not going to be the same as the next person, but we're all going to use the same tools to help us emotionally keep ourselves balanced and get through whatever our journey holds, because some stories are, they're really quite traumatic, and the severity of them, and we've spoken about this before. When people say traumas, it's like they think of the worst thing ever, and don't validate that their traumas were just as bad. I mean, things from childhood that you would be like, oh, well, that just happened in every house. So didn't it? Everybody was going through, the parents arguing, the alcoholic parent, the slamming doors, the violence. I mean, you're like, right, well, that was just life for everybody, but it still matters. It still leaves an emotional imprint. It's still stuck in your body, and I found that when I was doing my journaling, it wasn't a case of, right, let's talk about this today. I want to dive back to when I was 9 and no, it's just whatever's top of your mind that day. And you just start to write about what's coming up. And it took me about a year probably going through things that were coming up in my past, because they were stuck. They were controlling who I was becoming. And they were a big part of what was going on for me, the depression. And the more I faced and sat with and processed, the more I was connecting to myself. I stopped playing the victim. Woe is me, and this happened to me, and the world owes me, and and I was this, and this happened to me. It's, you need to get out of the victim mode. It's, you've got to take responsibility for self.
And I love it too, because it's not like, all right, you're fine now, the work's over, right? You're completely happy, and that's a lot of times people think that with their health too, right? Where like their physical health, their pain, like, okay, it's gone, I can stop doing what worked in a healthy way. I like the fact that, okay, I don't want to say because sometimes you say this to people, and we were talked about this before, or two people like the work is never done. They're like, oh, well, I don't even want to get started then if the work's never done. But this is the point. The people who do the work, put in the work, they will get the results, consistently and sustainably. We love that word, is consistent and sustain it, where something might work for a month. That's why I'm not a huge fan. I'm not a huge fan of 4-week programs unless we still have the long game in mind. And if I recommend something like that, like, here, let's start on these supplements, let's say, or some workout program. I need your assurance that, okay, you might not feel anything for the first month or 2 months, but by doing the work simply and consistently, just like you did, just trust me on it. Just keep going. Your brain is going to change. And we're not going to get into the whole neurology of it, but
yeah, I know. And now that we know that, as we've done the neurology, the coaching, we've done the neuroscience part, and now we're like, wow, that makes complete sense. Because as you said, they look at mindset and they're like, woo woo, that's crazy, your positivity, you're like, no. Here's the science, the science behind it. And it is such simple work. Journaling daily, but the work never stops. But it's not like it's a graft, or a grind or a hustle every day. It's beginning, it does, you've got stuff to offload and get yourself on a balance. But it gets easier, it gets lighter, it gets more fun. Every day I'm growing. Every day I'm trying to be better.
I know you go through this too. It's like peeling an onion. Yeah. Right? Those different layers, and you think, oh man, this is great. And all of a sudden you go deeper, and you almost don't want to. Like, if you're just starting off that surface layer, that is another reason why, there's been books and books and books and written about how, especially with chronic pain, it's not in your head. Again, you're feeling it, but the solution is not in your body. That's from Nicole Sachs. I believe I saw her write about that. It's these traumas. And as we've learned, a trauma is it's an exposure to threat. So it could be a severe trauma, or like severe by that, I mean like an accident or sexual assault, stuff like that. Or it could be a sports injury, like any type of, or even toxicities that were exposed, any type of trauma that it's an exposure to threat. And again, I lost my train of thought there as I kept going.
But no, it's true enough though. The brain doesn't know the imagination for reality. So the experience it doesn't matter, as we've labelled it, the severity. Trauma's trauma. It's still stored. It's an energy block. And your body, that was a bit I found fascinating, was the fact the more I was working on my mindset, and through that journey, I was connecting to my body again. I started listening to my body, and it was telling me. So see, the chronic pain, it was crying out to me, just going, Leigh, you need to get out of your head. You are going to die here. It was literally debilitating me and screaming at me. And the more I was working on the mindset and becoming mentally stronger and emotionally dealing with shit, the pain went away. 85% of the pain that I was on 32 meds a day for, I was in my bed for a year, Ryan, year with 2 kids. It should never have come to that. And just working on my mindset, getting mentally stronger was how I get rid of the pain. And now I know my body so well. I know when I'm going too into my head, I'll maybe get tension in my neck. Yeah, I'm not going to run to the doctors now. I don't need pills. I can fix myself. I can heal myself because I know myself well enough, and I know what I need.
And that's where I was going with it. It's like your body will tell you there's an emotional problem. Your body will respond to these emotional traumas. And it's so hard for, I think, people to understand or believe that, because as you mentioned, they think it's woo woo. No, this brain that we got here, it will protect you at any cost. It will protect it at any cost. And even if it means, all right, I'm going to debilitate you with pain, so you don't, because it thinks that perceived trauma or those emotional traumas are so much worse. And so it creates this physical pain. I'm not saying for everybody, but for chronic pain, there is always a component that we have to deal with, mindset wise, emotional wise, like mentally. And when, Leigh, I know what you mean when you say your mindset work. It's those tools. It's counting your wins. It's learning your language, journaling. And we didn't even mention, we're not even going to go into those, but reviewing your direction, imagining your outcome, because the two main ones, those day-to-day ones, when people are starting off, that's it. Those two. And if you have to do one, I would say start with count your wins. Right.
That was the one I started with. It was the only, I had no headspace to, even think about learn your language. What do you mean, right? There was just nothing there at all. And it was only count your wins. Yeah. Sometimes it was one win, sometimes it was two, and it was just the daily showing up and just looking for something, positive. And as the more I was looking for the gratitude in my day and purposely focusing on, like the weather, the sunshine, look at the lovely flowers, and purposely seeking that out, the more it was giving me more to be actually grateful for. And the next thing, I'm getting into a routine. I'm up and I'm out, and the rest.
Yes. Well, I mean, we're going to end on this because I want you, hopefully people were able to see where this went, but I want you to put a bow on it. So I'm going to point it out because I've seen it. I see it in Leigh, how she felt about herself led to her actions and behaviors. Right. Yeah. So it wasn't like she forced herself to get out of bed and start exercising or start walking or start eating healthy. No, it's how she saw herself and the identity, and how that shifted was through the count your wins. And this is not like positive thinking. This is, she found the evidence, no matter how small it was. And it's going to be small at the beginning, especially if you feel like you're just in a pit that you can't get out of, you're just frustrated and nothing has ever worked. So tell me, is that what you saw? So you started counting your wins, journaling, and then slowly but surely you wanted to do more and more.
It made me realize a lot of things. Yeah, it made
before we hopped on this call, you usually have a nice workout. So, those are the things you probably never would have done 5 years ago. So,
there was one thing that had to change everything. And it was the relationship I had with myself. It was how I saw myself, how I felt about myself, how, the traumatic experiences made me feel about myself. I was a chronic self-loather. I could not look in a mirror. So I had to, through my mindset work, doing my count my wins, the wins that started coming in once I was getting a wee bit stronger, look in the mirror for 2 minutes, and it was hell to begin with. It was hell. I could not look. I mean, and people would say, but you're pretty, look at you. And, and I'm actually dying inside, I'm like, So the relationship with myself had to change before anything was going to change. And that's what the journaling does. It creates a relationship with yourself, and it takes time and you build it up. And everybody's got their own process, but that was what had to change for me, how I saw myself, how I felt about myself, the stories I was telling myself, I was worthless. I was, I was just really damaged. I was broken. I was my depression, I am depressed, I am anxious. I was taking these in as my identity. I've always been depressed. I've always been in meds, so guess what? That was the loop. It was going to keep on coming. So it was becoming consciously aware of the stories.
Yes, love it.
That was, I had to become consciously aware of the stories that I was telling myself, and hence the mindset program, eliminate your limits. I had to obliterate my limits. It's like, that's all shit. None of that is true, and I had to just start from the very beginning and rebuild myself, my mind, in a healthier way, and I've never been happier. To feel again is brilliant.
And I love that. It's, it's that numbness that we think is heaven. Like how you said, we turn to drinking, or we turn to, mindless TV. We turn to and it's avoidance. It's, trying to find, and then things happen and nothing works. And the line that you didn't say on here, but I got to share, is that desperation for validation.
Yes.
We're desperately to a lot of times we're desperate to validate our symptoms by getting this test, by getting this diagnosis.
Yeah.
But then what?
It's simply, it's just going to you're going to be stuck there for another 20 years.
Yeah.
Just a different label, just a different med. You know, you've got to consciously wake up and say, this has got to change.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one that can do it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, I mean, this has been awesome. I'm going to post this, later today on the group, and people are probably going to be Facebooking you like, who is this Leigh Patterson? She's awesome. But no, I'm going to put a note, like, if you guys want me to have her on here again, where we just kind of shoot the breeze, and oh gosh, it's so cool.
Fire the questions in. Let's go deeper, because there's a lot more.
yeah, and it's not scary. It's much needed work, depending on what your goals are. I mean, if you don't, I'll end with this. I think I'll end with this, but like how Carrie says, I remember Carrie, and during our training, Carrie Campbell, where she's like, sometimes her clients or people say, well, I'm great. I don't need any, I'm perfectly fine. And she's like, so you have everything and are the most fulfilled and happy in every area of your life, in your health, your career, your family and relationships. You can't get any better. If that's the case, then you are a, what is it? You're in fulfillment or enlightened, I guess it is. But 99.9% of the people, they're not like that. Or they don't feel that way. So this is why the mindset journey and the mindset work is so important on our physical health, because that's where I'm talking today. Okay.
As it starts up there.
Yeah.
And then
all right,
the physical health gets sorted.